So before we head back into closed session, just had one or two other items. One of the issues that came up this morning in conversation related to the recent decision by the Surface Transportation Board. Let me ask our CEO, Mr. Morales, can you explain what happened and maybe put this in some context?
Sure. Well, I think it's probably worth a preface that I think it's probably safe to say that until very recently, very few people in this room or anyone watching this project knew that the Surface Transportation Board existed, much less what its processes were. So it's certainly understandable that there can be confusion about that agency and its impacts. But I think we saw, with regard to its decision yesterday, we've seen some combination of that action being misunderstood, misreported, and or misrepresented, and including statements that it's a major blow to the project, which just, frankly, there's no basis or credence to that. The STB, in looking at our petition or any petition, has basically two things it looks at, two broad categories. One is the issues relating to interstate transportation, and those are things like competition, other economic factors having to do with railroads, and then transportation value, and then the other major area is environmental impacts. And on that, it's worth noting the STB is now, in fact, part of our environmental process. They're a cooperating agency in it, so we're currently involved. In the past, the STB has, in other cases, bifurcated its review and looked at the interstate carrier aspects separately from the environmental and reached a decision on those issues, and then said it will become final upon completion of the environmental reviews. We submitted our petition and suggested that they might want to take that same course with our program. Not to shortcut either review, but simply to bifurcate. And the reason really for that is as we look to manage risks on all elements of the program, we submitted our petition almost a year ahead of when we need an action, so we believe we've given them plenty of opportunity, but we also recognize that we don't control that process. So we wanted to try to look at their past practice and say maybe there's a way to ensure that things can keep moving along timely. Their decision yesterday was very clear and direct, said that they don't need to bifurcate the process, that they'll conduct it under their normal review, and that there's no reason to believe they can't get it done in the time frame that we've asked for a decision. So the process continues. We submitted that petition back in September, and they'll continue reviewing it and come to a conclusion. Some of the questions raised about the process and the notion of secrecy. Again, I'm not quite sure how we do anything in secret. But it's when we filed our first petition.
I want to clarify that we're not trying.
We're not trying to do anything. Yes, and we certainly aren't. When we filed our first petition back in the spring of last year, or this year, sorry, we file it as is required with the STB. They post it on their website and publish it and solicit comment. And there were multiple comments that were submitted in response, including from some of those who are here today, based on that publication by the STB of the document and inviting comments. When they took jurisdiction, the STB took jurisdiction in June over our program. The requirement for us to now submit petitions as we go forward with each section became an administrative matter. We just have to do it in order to move through the process, and so we have. And in accordance with their procedure and how we did it the first time, we filed our petition. It was posted both on our website and on the STB website with an invitation for interested parties to submit comments. It's the very same process that was used the first time, and it produced dozens of comments from interested parties on all sides. That comment period now, based on their decision, has been extended to December 24th, and then they will continue to review the matter before them, and we expect a decision in the spring.
Just would say I thought my friend Colleen Carlson, the chief counsel for Kings County, the letter that was read to us this morning was particularly bizarre, because as counsel she should know that it's the STB that provides notice to the public when an application is made before them. And so this was not some sort of thing that we did to try to keep this from public view. This is a process that Kings County, in fact, asked for. They asked the STB to take jurisdiction over the project. They did. So they should know something about the way the process works there. But, Jeff, you made a point yesterday in talking with me about this when you called to tell me that last year, when we filed with the STB, we gave them two choices at that point, and they turned down one, and then they took the other, and that this is more or less consistent with that approach.
Correct, and the process they're following is the very same one under which they provided approval to us to begin construction on the first segment earlier this year. So it's, again, we look at ways of continuing to move the process along. We offered them two choices, and they took the one that, again, produced the approval the last time, and is their basic procedure.
And one last thing, just can you remind the board and the public what is the function of the STB? What is it that they try to do?
It's a civics question, I guess. Surface Transportation Board is...
start with Title I.
Yes, sir. Is the successor agency to the old Interstate Commerce Commission, which was created a long time ago.
1880s.
Primarily to regulate railroads, but they regulate, in addition to railroads, things such as moving companies and rates that they charge, things like that, and trucking companies. Right? And they have regulation over railroads. Their primary role in regulating is to ensure fair competition among railroads and fair access to markets and things. Their regulatory role with regard to passenger rail, such as us, is very limited, and primarily their scope is over the construction of new rail systems when it comes to us, and that's what we have before them, and that they need to approve before we move into construction.
And their approach is to encourage construction of a national rail network.
Their statute actually makes it very clear that construction of new rail is in the national interest, and therefore their processes are set up with that in mind.
One last thing on this. I think I read one of the stories this morning, the LA Times said that this was related to a 29-mile segment in the Central Valley. I believe that's totally inaccurate, because last year we received authorization from the Surface Transportation Board for the 29-mile segment that we're building now. So this related to the next segment of the alignment, which is the Fresno to Bakersfield segment. Is that right?
Correct. It's tied to the Fresno to Bakersfield approval.
Okay. Sorry, Ralph. I just had to point that out. Okay. We're going to go back into closed session now.